The Beltline on a VW bus is iconic. Wrapped completely around the bus, it accentuates the front V on the nose cone in a way that is recognizable in about every part of the world. It's a complicated shape and position for a rust repair, but this small section on the rear passenger side needed to be repaired prior to the installation of the luggage shelf and other large replacement panels that you'll see later in this episode. For those of you who are new here, my name is Brandon, and I'm restoring this VW bus that I found in a small surf town in Brazil. Many areas of this bus are badly rusted, most likely from rainwater drainage issues over its long life as a taxi. This section of the Beltline is no exception, and from the looks of it, it previously was repaired many years ago. Hopefully this time I can restore it for the next 100 years. I've found the more precisely I remove the rusted area, the nicer the replacement piece goes in. I also try to round any corners to eliminate a corner point, as this will build up too much heat in one section when welding. Locating and either sanding or drilling out each spot weld is a must for this process. Anything else is too rough on the metal and won't end up as clean. First, I'll take some quick measurements, leaving plenty of extra room to trim off and start roughly shaping the piece to fit. This is the step that requires the most patience. The longer time that you spend creating a perfect fit, the better the end result will be. Also, this is where the fancy tools come in handy, like an English wheel or a bead roller, to quickly shape more complex curves in the metal. While I'm looking forward to those tools in my garage one day, I'll stick to the DIY method that's available to every car restoring peasant on a budget. There's always something around the shop that can mimic the curves and shape that you're trying to create. It just takes some creativity and a little bit of heat. Once the replacement panel fits perfectly, it's time to start thinking about how it's going to be welded in. In this case, I want to MIG spot weld on the bottom flat connecting surface and TIG weld all the seams that sit flush. Plug welding with MIG is easy. It's pretty tough to screw it up unless your weld is too cold. But after 2 to 3 years of welding, I've pretty much figured out how to make sure my welds will hold. They might not always look pretty, but it gets the job done. TIG welding I'm definitely newer at, but there are some major advantages to TIG welding, the body panel specifically, that are very sensitive to warping, and I'm quickly becoming better at it. Once the TIG is all sanded flush, I can get a really good look at more work that needs to be done on this belt line, but that's for another day. Today I need to prepare the interior portion and inner supports for all the new pieces that are going to fit in this area. In the beginning of this video, I'd removed this inner support by carefully drilling out the spot welds and prying it off the quarter panel. Now it's time to restore it and get it back installed into its place. After the part is carefully removed, the first thing I do is throw it in the sandblaster. This blast cabinet is from Eastwood and has worked flawlessly for the last 6 months. A fantastic addition to anyone's garage, really. I'm using aluminum oxide as my blast media. It's one of the best for initial rust and paint removal and can be reused many times before it starts to dull. Once blasted, the whole part gets coated in phosphoric acid. This etches the clean bare metal and creates rust prevention coating that will stop any future rusting. After more inspection, I'll fix any damaged areas or modify the part as needed before it goes to paint and gets coated in whatever is going to work best for its job. In this case, I'm using POR 15, which is great for the insides of channels where it won't see sunlight or get scratched. Both scratches and sun render POR 15 quite useless, and I'd choose a more durable coating like epoxy primer for that. POR does have anti-corrosive properties though, which makes it a perfect choice for lining the inside. After confirming a perfect fit, I made sure that no bare metal will be left untreated and coated the quarter panel where the inner support will marry up to it. One of my favorite steps is when I pull out the glue. 3M panel adhesive is wonderful stuff, to be honest. It's so perfect for restoration work because it acts as a rust preventative and an adhesive at the same time. In many areas, I use a combination of welding and adhesive. It just takes a little bit more pre-thought to make sure that I'm securing each piece in a way that makes the most sense. Already restored and prepared off camera was the gas tank overflow system. This system sits right below the fill nozzle and catches any gas that overflows or drips when filling the tank, rerouting it out of the engine compartment. Just a small amount of adhesive was necessary thanks to how perfectly I had fit this piece. And with that completed, this complex inner area of the bus was done, completely rust-free and ready to be forgotten for its lifetime of adventure. Except for one step, I needed to cover all the bare metal with epoxy primer. Eastwood makes a primer that's called OptiFlow. It's specially designed to be rolled or brushed on. And at first you might feel like a hack job not masking everything for hours or setting up and cleaning a spray gun. But after the metal gets covered in minutes and you can move on to the next job, you're going to find that it's a really cool product. For something that isn't ever seen or as a first protective coating on an area that you're working on, this is really a great time-saving method. And it beats cleaning the mess of the HVLP spray process. With primer gray covering the area, I fired up the laser level to help me with placing the next portion of the area's replacement pieces. I thought this would be a fairly easy process, as these parts were all new from BBT. And I thought they would easily fit together. For the most part they did, with the exception of one bottom corner. I'm not sure if the luggage tray was the wrong year, or the bottom corner was meant to be customized to fit. Either way, I went to work on shrinking and stretching the metal to fit the corners of the luggage tray. I decided that the top lip would be best glued to prevent possible corrosion from the windows getting any further, and that adhesive would hold better than pinch welds around the corners. Then on the vertical portions, I would spot weld every inch, hammering it as I went along to make sure each plug weld was as flat as possible. I usually let the glue dry overnight before I remove all the clamps, as well as taking my time with grinding my plug welds down so the heat from the grinding doesn't affect the glue in any way. The glue is made to experience heat in the 90-minute cure time, but after it sets, I have to limit the amount of heat on the panel or the glue would compromise. Big shout out to Avhrit for sending me this cordless angle grinder, a tool you really can't have too many of, and not being held back by an extension cord is a big plus for daily work. This one comes with the usual needs like brushless motor, lithium batteries, and 9,500 RPM, but one little feature I did like with this angle grinder was a magnet strategically placed to pull metal dust away from the air intake to protect the motor, hopefully leading to a longer life than my last one. And it's red, like my other overpriced red tools, except this one isn't overpriced. You can check it out in the link below. And with that, another episode ends. Let me know if you all enjoyed my commentary or if the sounds of the tools would have been more melodious. Thank you all for the comments and following along with this process. That's honestly starting to drag on a little. I think I'm going to start speeding this up so we can get to paint as soon as possible. And if you made it this far, go ahead and comment what color you think would be best for this restoration.